Pieces are chosen using three factors in NAS Tetris, being the previous piece, the number of pieces spawned, and an underlying random value. Let's go over how these are combined together. The first operation is to add together the random number and the piece count. Then, following taking that sum, the number is masked to 3 bits, which provides a value between 0 and 7. This is functionally equivalent to the modulo operation. This is then used as an index to a table of pieces, and most of the time, the result of that table is the piece which will be put into the next box. However, before putting it into the next box, the game checks two things. Firstly, whether the piece it just generated is the same as the previous piece, and secondly, whether the piece it just generated exists. You may have noticed 0 to 7 is 8 values, and there are only 7 tetraminos. If it tries to generate the 8th tetramino, or a repeat of the last piece, it will go to the second stage of piece generation. The second stage of piece generation is very similar to the last. However, before initiating it, the random value is shuffled once. We will come back to this in a minute. The game takes the random value, immediately masks it down to another number 0 to 7, and then takes the sum of that and the previous piece's orientation ID. A piece's orientation ID corresponds to the specific rotation state of the piece, and therefore is not a number 0 to 6, but is actually a number 0 to 18 or hex 1, 2. This is what the results of the lookup table were. Once these numbers are added together, another modulo operation is done, this time a mod 7. The result of this mod 7 will generate the next piece using the same lookup table as before. If you caught all that, the gist of it is that a number 0 to 7 is picked, and if it would be a repeat or a 7, then a number 0 to 6 is picked. The intention was to reduce the frequency of repeated pieces. Repeats can appear only if the second stage is reached, so they are much less likely. Now let's return to how the RNG is changed. The random value is what's called a linear feedback shift register. Here's what those do. To generate a new number, look at the bits of the current number. Take 2 of them and apply the exclusive OR operation. This means that if only one of them is a 1, then the output is 1. However, if both are 1 or both are 0, the output will be 0. The result of that is put at the front of the number, and the bit at the end of the number is discarded. Since the NES only does this shuffle to the number once, something interesting happens. Most of the random value used for the first stage is still there for the second stage. All that happens is the bits are shifted right, meaning when we do our second attempt, there's only 2 possibilities for the new random value, depending on what takes the place of the leading bit. From this, we can build a complete table of possibilities. The piece count and the previous piece determine which random values will lead to the second stage. Those will be the 2 axes of our table. We only need to worry about piece count 0 to 7, since adding, for instance, a piece count of 8 would be equivalent to adding 0 due to the modulo operations. Now let's fill out one box. Say the previous piece was a T, and 0 or a multiple of 8 pieces have been spawned. Our 2 cases for the second roll to happen are where the randomizer picks a 0, which corresponds to the T on the table, or it picks a 7, which is the automatic reroll. Now let's shuffle the number once. We don't know what might come in, but we do know the lower 2 bits will either be 1, 1 or 0, 0. So that leaves us with 4 possible values: 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, or 1, 0, 0. These have the decimal values of 3, 7, 0, and 4. The previous piece, T, has an orientation ID of 0, 2. To be clear, only the orientation it spawned in matters. Rotating pieces has no impact on the RNG. Adding that to our possibilities gets us 5, 9, 2, and 6. Then we'll make sure everything is below 7. 9 is above 7, so subtract 7 to get 2. Everything else is already a good index to our piece table. Converting our numbers, 5 corresponds to L, both the 2's correspond to Z, and the 6 corresponds to an I. This is the list of pieces that can spawn on the second roll. Now let's fill out the rest of the table. Repeating this process for all 56 entries on the table, we are able to generate this map. This table is useful to explain which pieces can repeat when. You'll notice that in the example that we calculated, T is not present in the list of pieces that can generate on the second roll. Therefore, it is impossible to get a T following a T piece when your piece count is at 0 or any multiple of 8. Additionally, the pieces that do appear in the square have a higher probability of showing up given this previous piece and piece count. Specifically, the z adds up to a probability of 25%, meaning that when you have a t and the piece count is known to be 0, 1/4 of the time, the following piece will be a z. Let's color in the table to illustrate which pieces generate when. From here, we can see that if we were, for example, to get a t on piece count 3, for piece count 4, we would be able to get a repeat, as well as on 5 and on 6. But on 7, we cannot get another one. Therefore, the t piece can repeat a maximum of 4 times. The same logic applies to all other pieces. A j can repeat 5 times, a z can repeat 3 times, an O can repeat infinitely many times, since there is no piece count where it can't repeat. An S may repeat 8 times, an L may repeat 5 times, and an I piece may repeat 4. If you are interested in seeing more of the probabilities and the specifics of how rare these maximum length sequences are, I have linked a Google Sheet in the description, which has further information.